Hi, my name is Ryan Connolly and I chose Vietnam for my country presentation. Vietnam is located in southern Asia and lies in between Cambodia, Laos, China, and South China Sea. The capital of Vietnam, Hanoi, is in northern Vietnam and is Vietnam's largest city. Vietnam became their own country in 938 CE. After sending animal skins, ivory, and tropical products to the Chinese emperor in exchange for scrolls on philosophy, administration, and literature. At first, the country was modeled after China. Through the process of adapting to their new country, Vietnam took the communist side in order to combat colonialism. The communist country was then captured by the French in stages in the late 19th century. Once major cities like Saigon were captured, Vietnam became a French protectorate. The French built things to help Vietnam, such as the Saigon to Hanoi Railway and also roads and bridges. The building was funded by the heavy taxation of the Vietnamese people. This led Ho Chi Minh to create the Revolutionary Youth League from the safety of China, which later became the Vietnamese Communist Party in 1930. Once the French were weakened, Japan invaded Vietnam and forced the French government to occupy French Indochina. The French administration was still left in place by the Japanese. Ho Chi Minh's Vietnamese Communist Party pushed back the Japanese and controlled North Vietnam. By September of 1945, Ho Chi Minh had removed Japanese rule and declared Vietnam independent. Vietnam's independence was ignored by the great powers. Ho Chi Minh signed a treaty that said French troops could replace Chinese troops in North Vietnam in exchange for Vietnam to become a free state. The French didn't honor the treaty, which led to an 8-year guerrilla war against the French. Eventually, the Vietnamese won. During the Geneva Conference, they decided that Vietnam would be divided at the 17th parallel and that the elections would be held July 1956, although Vietnam remained divided because these elections were never held. Northern Vietnam remained ruled by Ho Chi Minh, while southern Vietnam was ruled by Ngo Diem. The United States first got involved with the guerrilla war between the two halves when they sent military advisors to South Vietnam in 1950. In 1964, 2 U.S. ships were supposedly attacked without provoke. The attacking of these ships caused the U.S. to bomb North Vietnam and send hundreds of thousands of troops throughout the 60s. After Northern Vietnam launched the Tet Offensive in 1968, U.S. troops suffered heavy losses and withdrew from Vietnam. A ceasefire was signed in 1973 as remaining troops left the country. The South continued to fight the Viet Congs in the North. The South lost and all of Vietnam is communist by April 1975. These are just a few of the images that describe the horrors of the Vietnam War. After market reforms were introduced in 1986, Vietnam's economy has flourished. The economic embargo was also lifted by USA in 1994, and soon after our diplomatic relations were restored. Thankfully, we are not having any problems with Vietnam's new leader, Tran Dai Quang. These are the demographics I found on Vietnam. They have a gross domestic product of around 216 billion per year. Their currency is the dong. They have a population of around 95 million people. Their death rate exceeds their birth rate, with birth rate being at 1.96 births per woman and 6.81 deaths per 1,000 people. Lastly, people there have a life expectancy of around 77 years. Most of Vietnam's population consists of people below 50. Vietnam is currently working on a better healthcare system, similar to Thailand's. Therefore, I think their older population will go up eventually. This past Saturday, Typhoon Doksuri went through Vietnam, damaging 100,000 homes and causing 300,000 residents to leave the area. Winds reached up to 84 miles per hour. Back in June, there was a Vietnamese blogger who wrote about human rights, civilian deaths in police custody, and the release of toxic chemicals by a Taiwanese factory. This woman, along with around 110 other activists, are currently political prisoners in Vietnam. This is my bibliography. I hope you enjoyed my presentation on Vietnam. Thank you.